Well, we got the penultimate episode of Hawkeye, and boy was it full of tons of MCU goodness. Let's break down this week's episode, talk about what's going on, and let's dive into that hugely spoilery, mostly predicted ending scene that fans are talking about. So it's time for a spoiler-filled Hawkeye review. But before we dive in though, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button and ring the bell for all the updates. Also, the huge giveaway. We're going to give away a PlayStation 5 at 25,000 subscribers. All you need to do to get in on our giveaway is be a subscriber and leave us a comment. Also, while you're at it, make sure you check out that free Week of Skillshare down below. It's a pretty cool way to develop all of your superhero skills for that never-ending war on crime, all by not diving too deep into your pocket. Plus, it really does help the channel, so we really appreciate it. Well, it's time for another recap and review of this week's episode of Hawkeye. Keep in mind we are going to talk spoilers, so if you haven't seen this episode yet and you don't want your experience spoiled, I recommend you click away, check out the episode, and then come on back. Now, this week's episode was big and highly anticipated by fans, so let's just dive in. The opener was pretty great, and we actually get a little bit of history on Yelena. Now, following up Black Widow, she actually gets blipped and then comes back 5 years later. Honestly, I love the perspective of this scene. It reminded me of that scene in WandaVision, but the before and after aspect of it was awesome. Now, she comes back 5 years later and instantly goes on the hunt to find her sister. Her emotions in the scene are pretty clear. She's absolutely worried. And sadly, she doesn't even know the truth about Natasha, that she died saving half of the universe. Now, as far as Kate goes, it picks up right after last week's episode left off. She's dejected and heads on home, where her mom takes care of her and tends to her wounds. After a rather sweet conversation of what the future may hold for her, Kate does reveal there's something shady with Tony Dalton's Jack. Now, after asking her mom to look into this, she goes back to her apartment to gather some of her things. And guess who's there? Yelena. This is one of my favorite scenes of the episode, them just simply sitting down and having a macaroni and cheese dinner. Florence Pugh nails this scene, and although some of the comedy is a little forced, you can totally see the chemistry between these two actresses. I did like the different perspectives that both of them have on Clint Barton. Kate clearly sees only the good in Clint, and Yelena is only looking for the bad. But as we know, she is being deceived, so I have to wonder if the light will finally shine on the truth here. Their girls' night is pretty sweet, but her warning to Kate not to get in her way is pretty decisive, and makes it pretty clear she has a mission. Now, when Kate arrives home, she finds Jack getting arrested, and her mom says she did look into it and what she said was true. In the meantime, Clint is actually crashing with one of his LARPer friends that he met earlier in the season. Eventually, he does head to an interesting spot in New York, a memorial for the Avengers where they first coalesced in the 2012 movie. Clearly, he's still pretty attached to Natasha, and his emotional moment, taking his earpiece out and telling Natasha he really needs to talk, was sweet. This scene, as well as several others in the series, have really been a peek into Clint Barton's heart, and I've liked that about the series. Now he delivers a message to the Tracksuit Mafia, and tells them to have Maya meet him where she first met Ronin. Obviously, Maya shows up with her whole team, but Clint dons the Ronin costume and takes them down Batman style. Eventually, Clint and Maya face off, and Clint gets the upper hand. As he holds the sword to Maya's throat, he actually takes off the mask and makes a deal with her. He won't kill her, but if anyone comes after his family, it'll be the last thing he does. He also points out how they are the same, and reveals the only reason he was there that night her father died is he was tipped by an informant. And I think this is going to be a major detail on why Maya spins off and eventually becomes a hero. During this encounter, Maya eventually takes Clint's sword and is actually about to kill him, when an arrow comes out of nowhere and shoots the sword out of her hands. Kate Bishop saves the day. Now, once Kate and Clint reunite, they head back to the apartment of the LARPer, and it appears the episode is finally winding down. But then Kate gets a rather upsetting message from Yelena. It reads, "Kate Bishop, I found out who hired me. Eleanor Bishop. Thought you deserved to know." And then the big reveal we've all been waiting for. Yelena actually sends her a photo of her mother with the one and only Kingpin. That's right, the rumors were true and Vincent D'Onofrio is back. This 5th episode was pretty darn good, although it was heavy on the dialogue. It appears Clint and Kate are finally reaching a point in their relationship where they can work together and maybe wrap up some of these loose ends, but the introduction of the Kingpin is clearly going to be a big deal in the finale of the show. I also don't find it a coincidence that this episode aired this week, the same week Spider-Man No Way Home comes back, and all those rumors of Charlie Cox's return as Matt Murdock basically been confirmed to me by Vincent appearing in the show. But we'll have to wait and see when we go see the film. All in all, this was another great episode. I'm going to give it an 8.5 out of 10. I can't wait till next week's finale, and I look forward to seeing more of the dynamic between Clint and Kate, as well as how the Kingpin is going to work into the MCU. Pretty unclear to me, but I have the sneaking suspicion, every way he always does, he took advantage of the blip and found a way out of prison. So what did you guys think? Did you like the 5th episode of Hawkeye? And how did you feel about the Yelena-Kate Bishop dynamic that went on in the show? I have to say, it appears to be a building block for the future in the MCU. Sound off in the comments below. If you like this video, make sure you press like, click subscribe, and if you don't ring that bell, you won't get any updates. Peace.